रक्षक की तरफ से दी जा रही है। समुद्र में तूफान आ रहा है। आपसे अनुरोध है कि आप नजदीकी बंदरगाह की तरफ चले जाएं। सावधान, सावधान, सावधान।
Cyclone Remal has left a trail of destruction and devastation across the state of West Bengal. The severe cyclone, which crossed Bangladesh and the adjoining West Bengal coast on Sunday night, has wreaked havoc in 3 coastal districts of the eastern Indian state, killing 2 and displacing around 200,000 people. Now, the latest cyclone brings back the focus on the increased frequency and severity of cyclones hitting India. Changes in ocean and atmosphere warming patterns are leading to this more frequent and severe tropical cyclones in the eastern Arabian Sea, just adjacent to India's west coast. Now, typically, tropical cyclones in the Arabian Sea occur at the start of the southwestern monsoon between the months of March and June, as well as after the season between October and December. The Arabian Sea accounts for about 2% of the annual global mean of tropical cyclones, but also poses a considerable threat due to its densely populated coastlines. So what really are cyclones? Well, they are caused by atmospheric disturbances around a low-pressure area distinguished by swift and often disruptive air circulation. The word cyclone is derived from the Greek word cyclos, which means the coils of a snake, and this was coined by Henry Piddington. Cyclones are formed with an enormous amount of energy from the ocean to the atmosphere. And according to studies, every year there are about 70 to 90% cyclonic systems that's developed across the globe. So how are cyclones formed? Well, the formation of cyclones takes place in low-pressure areas. The vulnerability of the place where these cyclones strike depends on the topography, intensity, and frequency of the cyclone. There are also 6 factors that can be held responsible for the formation of the cyclone. First, an ample amount of warm temperature at the surface of the sea. Second, instability in the atmosphere. Third, just how these forces is impacting the area so that low-pressure areas can be created. Fourth, when the humidity is quite high in the lower to middle levels of the troposphere. Fifth, disturbance in the pre-existing low-level area. And sixth, when the vertical wind shear is low. Now, what are the types of cyclones? There are 4 types of cyclones. First is the tropical cyclones. The regions where the tropical cyclones occurs are over the tropical ocean. Hurricanes and typhoons are the 2 types of tropical cyclones. Then is the polar cyclone. The polar cyclone is also known as the Arctic hurricane in the northern hemisphere. Third is the mesocyclone, which is considered to be one of the strongest thunderstorms. And then is the extratropical cyclones, which are formed in the middle latitudes along the frontal boundaries that are either known as extratropical cyclones or mid-latitude cyclones. But one of the most important reasons for this increased frequency of cyclones is climate change. Now, this is what is causing more frequent and intense cyclones on India's western coast. According to researchers, the frequency and intensity of cyclones developing over the Arabian Sea in particular has increased in the last 2 decades, while fewer such storms have been seen over the Bay of Bengal. According to reports, sea surface temperatures over the Arabian Sea has actually increased by 1.2 to 1.4 degrees in recent decades compared to 4 decades ago. And the result of which are more frequent cyclones that are stronger and often last longer. Now, the wrath of tropical cyclones in India is because warmer waters of the Bay of Bengal has made it conventional hotspot for cyclone formation. Prevailing east to west trade winds then transported them to India's east coast. So historically, the Arabian Sea was normally cyclone shy because of its cooler waters. Now, those that were formed were actually taken to Yemen or Oman by the prevailing trade winds. However, global warming and climate change are transforming this, and there is a shift in that trend. Higher surface water temperatures are irritating the cool Arabian Sea into generating many more cyclones. And the complex mechanisms involved in their motion means that they can move east and hit the west coast. So with escalated evaporation due to higher temperatures, the frequency, intensity and distance that's traveled by cyclones before dissipating are all surging upwards. And this applies to all cyclones across the globe. Indian coasts are not new to cyclones. In fact, 2 to 3 cyclones hit the country every season on an average, and at least one turns out to be severe, going by the data from the National Disaster Management Institute. However, climate change has impacted the frequency and the ferociousness of cyclones in the regions like elsewhere in the world. So the big question is just how prepared is India in their disaster response management and preparedness in light of this changing weather phenomenon and increasing cyclonic storms on the western coast?